It's like the equivalent of like you snapping someone and like the conversation going nowhere, and so you just box them. It's me doing that in real life. I'll be like, yeah, that's awesome that you got a new dog. Yeah, cool, see ya, and then just walk away. Just like it's cutting it.
Do you ever have this experience? I feel like I have this a lot when I'm talking to someone, and especially when it's someone that I find attractive, where you're in the conversation and your head just goes blank and you run entirely on instincts. And then afterwards, you're immediately analyzing that interaction. Like, why did I say that? Why did I talk about some random shit that didn't matter to me and wasn't interesting at all? Welcome back to the Better Friends podcast. My name is Johnny Corcoran.
I'm Erich Feist. Welcome back. Today, we are talking about being yourself, how to be yourself, how to overcome some maybe social anxiety, stuff like that. Johnny, I love that intro you just gave, that hook. That's good. I think that's an experience a lot of people have. I know I have a lot, especially when I'm talking to attractive people and I just look stupid. So,
yeah, it happens to me
great.
Almost daily. I would even say like almost every other conversation, regardless of if I'm attracted to that person or not.
No, I'm just dumb in every single conversation.
Not always, but it happens frequently where you just start a conversation and then your head goes blank. And I'm someone who usually has to think a lot before they speak. Mm-hmm. And so when my head goes blank, then, all conversational aptitude, emotional quotient, it's all out the window.
Emotional quotient. Just these words. I'm just would you say a lot of those are any of those conversations awkward, or it's just
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is very awkward because instead of thinking about, what does this person want to hear about? What is something that would naturally continue this conversation? It's like, oh yeah, this happened and that happened and this is how I feel about it. And
now what?
Bye.
We've talked about this. A lot of times these awkward conversations just happen. Not on purpose, but
certainly not.
We're different in how we just interact with people, like just in who we are. And so, like Johnny and I've talked about before, I sometimes like to make the situation awkward, even if it's not, even if there's no reason for it to be awkward. It's just leaving the conversation in a dumpster fire.
Right.
Yeah.
But
let's
you
get
described
into
it as you taking control of the situation by purposefully being awkward.
Right.
Whereas my situation is more of like brain dead.
Just blanking on what next to talk about, or?
Yeah, well, essentially it's almost like sensory overload. It's like, I don't know what's going on right now, and so I can't logically think about what makes sense to say or what would be good in conversation and sort of have a thoughtful interaction with someone that I don't know that well, because I'm thinking too much about other things, like about what I'm saying, what they're thinking, what the dynamic is. If I don't know someone very well, then it's very difficult for me to just have a natural conversation.
That makes sense. You're just over analyzing everything, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Man, so we've talked about what's that sidewalk called in Bemidji BSU?
So there's this sidewalk that everyone has to walk down to get to the academic side of campus, because all of the parking lots and the residential halls are on one end of campus, and there's this road called Birch Lane that goes along this sidewalk and goes straight to the academic side of campus. And so every day there will just be a flood of people going along this sidewalk both ways to and from class. And so you have these interactions all the time where you see people that you recognize, acquaintances, friends, And you have this thing where you're both walking along a long, straight, and flat sidewalk. And so you can see them from like 50 yards out. But then you have this super awkward moment where you're like, how long do I wait before I wave or I acknowledge that I see them or I say something? Because I see them 50 yards away, but I can't say hello at that far away.
It's
and so
so
you kind
awkward.
of look away.
It's so awkward.
Kind of look away. You look back at them. They're looking at you. You look away.
Just go on my phone. There's nothing on my phone screen. It's just black. I'm just looking at my reflection of myself crying because it's awkward.
But it's so interesting because I've sort of developed this tactic in that situation.
A tactic?
Which is essentially, yes. I essentially ignore their existence and purposefully do not look at them and just stare straight ahead at where I'm going. And I have headphones in, so I just pretend that I am unaware.
Yeah, it's a really good way to avoid just any social interaction. Just have headphones on.
Right. And then someone says hi to me and I pull my headphone out and I go, oh, hello. Put it back in and keep walking.
Johnny and I being good friends walking past. Hey, Johnny. Hey. That's it.
Actually, there was one classmate of mine where we would see each other and just I would give him like the head nod and just be like, "Oh hey," like I wouldn't say anything, just be like, hmm. And he would look at me like dead in the eyes, and he would be like, and that was our interaction every time walking along that sidewalk. Just a nod, nothing else.
What a special relationship.
Glorious. Yeah.
Man. Oh my gosh. Like, how does that go into being yourself, like we wanted to talk about? And how does, just overanalyzing these interactions, I think they can sometimes limit you truly being yourself, because you're constantly thinking about what you should be doing.
Right. So, well, I think the reason why I have a lot of these super awkward conversations is because I care too much about the other person's opinion or the overall impact of the conversation. And I end up experiencing, like I said before, a sort of sensory overload of like, it's just too much going on. I can't handle it. And so I end up just not being able to be myself and sort of have a genuine good interaction with people. And so I was actually curious about you and how you have been dealing with this kind of thing, because I know we've both been in positions where we overanalyze things after the fact, but you seem to be a lot better at dealing with it in the moment and sort of being in control in the moment. So how do you do that?
Man, that's a good question. I'd say I think one of my main strategies for that is kind of just taking a second to realize the position you're in and then zooming out and looking at the big picture of really like, because when I'm in a mood of really being myself, I'm thinking about life and that it's only, you only live for so long. And so it's like, is this really going to matter in the span of my entire life? Not at all whatsoever. Like how I act in this situation, like it's kind of like if you're gonna live your life, you should be living it as yourself, who you are, developing and just trying all these new experiences, taking risks, because it's like, why would you waste a single moment on someone that doesn't really matter in your life, like a stranger, for example, like worrying about what they think, because that's just wasting your own time, because everyone's got a certain number of heartbeats, and it's just, making those count. This is becoming a motivational speech. No, but seriously, like zooming out and just really looking at what the situation is. Like, okay, this is so stupid that I'm worrying about what this person thinks, and it's just exposing yourself to those situations where you would normally get uncomfortable, and it's just like, so much growth comes from that, from being uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah, I think one thing that I try to think about, and it's really tough. Like I said, in the moment, a lot of times you just go brain dead, forget everything.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be conscious in that moment. But one thing I at least try to think about is that the way you see other people in your life is
Yes.
often how they see you in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you're sitting in class and someone comes in late, you might like look over and give a glance because someone opened the door, but then you focus back in on the lecture. Whereas for that person in that moment, let's say if you were coming in late, everyone turns to look at you and you feel so embarrassed. You're like, oh my God, I was late. I'm not being timely. All these people are judging me because of it. But for them, the people who you assume are judging you, they just looked over because they heard a sound and then went back to being focused on the lecture. So for them, it was a blip, a tiny moment that they immediately forgot about. And for the person experiencing it, they don't realize that, and it becomes this big deal for them when in reality, it's just a tiny little blip that doesn't have any impact. So that's what I try to think about. Like, if I have an awkward interaction, it's not something that's really going to stick with other people, because that happens all the time. You have awkward interactions with people and you forget about it frequently. So that's at least what I try to think about.
Yeah, because in the past, I used to think a lot about what other people were thinking, or thinking about how, okay, did I say the right things when I was talking to that person? Like, did I embarrass myself? And I think I still do that. I think that's just kind of a natural thing with a lot of people. It's a natural thing with me. I've just learned to try to let go of that. And I mean, I'm happiest when I am being myself and being out there and boisterous. And that's just something I have loved. And when you said the thing about like looking, like people are looking at you the same way you would look at them, that's amazing. Because something I know, if anyone is listening or watching this right now and they have some sort of social anxiety and they're worried, like, oh my gosh, like walking into a room, like walking into class late and everybody's looking at you, or you think everybody's looking at you, it's like, look around. Like, because normally your thought is, don't look at anyone. Just like, I'm walking, I'm going to my seat. Look at the other people in the room, whether you're going to like a party or like some kind of gathering with everybody that has masks on, obviously. And you're looking at everyone, and like, yeah, a trick is just to look at people in the room, and because it makes you realize they're not actually all looking at you. And people care way less than you think. And that's something you just realize in life, that like people don't care what you're doing. And if they do, it's like, man, they got some stuff to work on themselves. So that just devalues
I totally agree.
Think. Yeah.
Yeah. And my goal is to try to bring a little bit more of a natural goofiness, you know?
Yeah.
You and I try to be funny frequently because we really enjoy making other people laugh. And so one thing that I am trying to do is to be a little bit more goofy and natural in my everyday interactions. So for example, if I was walking into class late, give a quick look around, a little grin, maybe a little wink at one of the tables nearby. Oh, and then they don't know who you're winking at. Could be anyone. Could be anyone in that entire room that you just winked at, and they're like, "Wait, did he just wink at me?" And then you just sit down normally.
That's perfect.
See, that would be so funny.
That's exactly
you're in control of the situation. You're being a goofball, and you don't care what other people think, except that it's funny to you.
Yes, that's such a good way, because it's just own it, own the situation, take control, like you said, and it's like it's disrupting your normal flow of your day and how you normally act, and disrupting that other person's day too, but in like a good way, in like a funny way. It's like, you did that to me, and like I looked and like you winked at me, I'd be like, what just happened? And then you sit down, and then that like leaves the interaction like that. That's why I do the thing I do when I'm like, when I was still at college, I like talk to people in line, and the conversation was just fall off and seem like it's over. It's like the equivalent of like you snapping someone and not and like the conversation going nowhere, and so you just box them. It's me doing that in real life. I'll be like, yeah, that's awesome that you got a new dog. In my mind, I don't really care about it. I'm like, yeah, cool, see ya, and then just walk away. Just like it's cutting it off. It's leaving that conversation and letting it burn in the dumpster fire that it is. It's so fun. It's just so fun.
Yeah, yeah.
That helps you cope in. Sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
It helps you cope in those awkward situations even more too, when awkward situations arise. Because now I rarely think a situation's awkward because I'm just so comfortable with silence. And because I put myself in those awkward situations. And so it really, like, the more used to it you get, obviously, the less you think it's a big deal.
And you know, too, that you have the power to make it even more awkward at any moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fun.
Yeah. But one thing also, too, that I have read about, and also I think as people who have interactions with other people, you experience this naturally. But the mood that you have is infectious. And so when you talk to people, if you are happy or excited or thinking in your head like, wow, this person is really attractive, that can kind of like bleed through, and then they will somehow, maybe through your nonverbals, through your body language, through your tone of voice, these kind of things, maybe they somehow receive that, and oftentimes they will mirror it back.
Yeah.
And a really good example is when you accuse somebody of something. So you're immediately coming in with a confrontational attitude, and that's why people sense that and become defensive immediately, because they're like, wait, this person is attacking me, and now I'm going to attack right back, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of a negative example, but everyone has to have experienced that.
Yeah. It's so true.
And so as a positive takeaway of that is that if you interact with someone and you are confident or you are joking around and having fun, that will bleed through, and then they will often reciprocate that feeling back to you. And so if you go into a conversation and you go brain dead and you're like, oh, this is so awkward, it's sort of a positive feedback loop. By you yourself thinking it's awkward and feeling that it's awkward, you're sending that to them, and they're reciprocating it, going, yeah, this is awkward. Why did you put us in this room? I hate being here. And
That's
then
a good point. That's
you
a
just
really
give
good
them a
point.
wink and a smile and fucking get the hell out.
Because even if you smile at someone, unless they're a dirtbag, if you smile at someone, like when you're just passing by, then a smile back. Like if you're in Minnesota, like and you say hi to someone, doesn't matter who it is, they're probably gonna say hi back. Or even like, dude, I'm when I'm at Dairy Queen and I'm working, like if there's someone in the window, like today, there's some woman, she looks like she was upset, like annoyed, and I could tell she was annoyed. And then when I handed out the food, dude, I'm just like, because I view it as like a challenge. I'm like, let's see if I can turn her day around, huh? And then I get out the window. I'm like, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day. Do you want any ranch with that? And then,
Actually, I would love some ranch. Thank you.
and then she cried. She cried. It didn't work. It did work. No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
Yeah, she smiled. She smiled and said, "Thank you so much." Like, got her. It's either that or she just had a resting bitch face. Don't know which one, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Either way, it's a win for you.
very big win. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah. Not me, though. If you say hi to me, I'll be like, wait, was that person just talking to me? Because I kept walking.
Why would they talk to
And
you?
I didn't make eye contact. Oh, let's talk about eye contact.
Ooh.
It's very
Hit it.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that I think about a lot, because oftentimes you have those interactions where no words are spoken, but you make eye contact with someone, and then either you look away immediately or you hold that shit.
I know, dude.
And you force them to look away. You're like, I'm not gonna look away until you look away.
If you want to get a rush and increase your heart rate and just like almost cry, like I'm about to cry thinking about it, just like every interaction you have, just making eye contact with them and waiting for them to look away. And just like making eye contact a little too long, you know, that feeling you get, and you're just like,
yeah.
That's another challenge. I should do that. Everybody's gonna think I'm creepy though.
I don't know. We have a friend who's on staff with us, and he has these piercing blue eyes and this long blonde hair. Kind of a stud, honestly. But his eye contact is insane. He will never break eye contact, and he'll even do this thing where he'll like sort of readjust and kind of like really stare into your soul.
Yeah.
But it's not that weird when he does it.
Yeah. You know he's really
until you've
focusing.
talked to him for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like it makes you feel so valued. Like really he's really taking in what you're saying. Right. And I don't know, I've always just felt like, wow, like it just I don't know, emulates empathy. Like just
right. Well, it's like in the moment when you're talking to him, he has 120% focus on exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
Which is so insane. So maybe it's actually a good thing to just not break eye contact. Just stare people down, especially when they're talking to you.
I'd say, do you normally make eye contact throughout the whole interaction, or are you looking away? Like, I'd say normally you look. Normally, when people are talking, you like look and then back up or whatever.
Right. So it's normal, I think, to look away, which is what I do sometimes. But also, if you're having a really good, sort of deeper conversation, I'll definitely like stare you down. And then only when I have to think about what I'm saying will I look away. Because oftentimes, if I'm having a deep conversation, I'll like look up so that I can think through what I'm saying, and then I'll look back at you and get your reaction and continue saying it, and then focus on what you're saying and stare you down for a while. And then only when I have to think about it. Right? It's, to me, it like looking away is like me allowing my brain to spin a little bit. Like get the gears turning and think about things.
Eye contact is huge. Make eye contact. If you're someone who normally doesn't make eye contact, challenge yourself. It's all about challenge yourself. Putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, because that's the only way you're going to grow. And if you want to conquer those awkward situations and truly be yourself, get out of that cookie cutter way people normally interact with people. Own it. Be yourself. It's easier said than done, but...
Yeah. It's a journey, right? Try to keep putting yourself out there and try to be your natural self. For me, it's being goofy. A lot of times when I first meet people, I kind of give off more of a colder sort of, I don't know how to describe it really, but more of like an I don't really care what you're saying attitude. Or at least like sort of a... Maybe that's a bad way of saying it.
I don't know that I would say that. I'd say it's more like, it's like you hold back furthering knowing who they are. Like it's, you're kind of just at the surface. I keep a distance. You're okay. Exactly. You hold that buffer. Right. Yeah. Yeah,
and then once I get to know you, I open up. I'm a lot goofier, and I'll joke around a lot more. And so that's kind of definitely what I'm trying to work on, is just, instead of holding people at arm's length, just being my normal goofy self right away, which is tough. But like I said, it's a journey, something to strive towards.
Yeah.
And try to keep pushing yourself, getting out of your comfort zone, and, maybe go strike up conversations with people. That's something that I absolutely hate doing, and it would probably be very beneficial for me.
Yeah. Seriously, that's a huge thing. Like if you're standing in line somewhere even if you just see one thing, I've kind of made it a challenge for myself sometimes just to kind of keep exposing myself to those situations. Being in public, you're like in line at McDonald's. A good example is this one woman. I had gotten my food. I was sitting down. I was waiting, and she came up to me. She's like, "What's up, dude?" And I'm like, "Do I know you? I've never seen her before in my life." And she's just like, "No. How are you?" I'm like, "What is happening?" It's just some random person. And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Why are you talking to me?" She's just like, "You seemed cool. I just want to talk to you." She didn't have any motive or anything like that. She just felt like talking to me. I'm like, "That's nuts." That, like, I loved that. It was that's with the whole thing of like disrupting your normal flow and like someone else's, but like in a good way. Yeah. It's like we had like a good conversation, and I'm like, I never saw her again. That was it.
That's wild. I need that energy in my life.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just it doesn't even have to be that extreme. Just in line, looking at someone like, "Hey, I like your bag." She's like, "Okay, thank you." It feels good to compliment people, or like just say hi. You know, in a non-creepy way. Feels good to compliment people. So,
yeah.
Thank you all for watching this episode of the Better Friends podcast. We're enjoying this every time. This is episode, what? 5?
5.
We're at 5. Yep. Crazy. I think most podcasts fail at episode 7. There's some statistic out there where that is, and that's been in my brain for a long time. We just got to get past 7.
So you got 2 more, but
we got 2 more, then we're done, baby. We're done. You can find us on Spotify, on YouTube, and you can find us on Twitch. We're also on Facebook. We got a Facebook page.
Peace.